Hey everyone, welcome back to the Cohesity YouTube channel. My name is Chris Colati. I'm a field CTO here with Cohesity, and I actually want to take a couple of minutes to compare the old reporting within our Helios control plane with the new reporting module that is actually coming available. And the reason this is important is there's two things we added and changed. One, we completely updated the UI. We improved the performance of the reports themselves, and we added in backup as a service into the reporting structure. Previously, this only reported on your on-premises clusters, which is what I'm showing here in my all clusters view. But if I switched over to DataProtect, we wouldn't see anything. So this is actually the old view. So we're looking at just the restricted view of all the on-premises clusters, where we could filter by clusters, we could select all, and we had some pre-canned actual backup jobs where, for example, let's look at failed objects. So one thing we notice is the old reports take a little bit of time to produce. And that was one of the things we wanted to change as we went through. So now this report is actually done. It shows 2 failed objects, but I had to wait a few seconds as I was talking for that to happen. We're going to run that same report in the new version of the reporting, and we'll see just how fast it is. So let me flip over and start showing you some of the new objects that we can see. So here I've actually flipped over to dark mode, one to just distinguish the difference between the old UI and the new UI for no other reason. But what I want to show here is, instead of being just on all clusters, I've now gone into the context of my global settings, which is all of my systems, DataProtect as a service, as well as my on-premises clusters. Now, if I click into reporting, I get a nice tile view of all of the different reports that are available. And again, some of these are across all environments. Some of them are specific to DataProtect as a service. So here I'll point out service consumption really is just DataProtect as a service. There is no on-premises here to filter out. What we're seeing is all of our regions that are part of DataProtect as a service. We can also filter down and look at just the consumption of the US East, for example. But this report is a good example of one that is just for DataProtect as a service. So if we go back to the library, the rest of these reports are fairly universal, and then you can filter down. So for example, let's look at that failures report, because that was the one we ran that took a few seconds to actually come up. So I'm going to do this at the global level. When I click into failures, we'll see how fast that the report actually produces. And this is unfiltered. So this is every single system. This is across all my on-premises environments. It's across all of my DataProtect as a service environment. So it's showing me everything. If I want to actually narrow this down by source, I have my list of sources, which can be a little long depending on the number of sources. But more importantly, let's just say I want to look at my DR environment, or actually I'm going to look at my demo cluster here, as well as my production cluster. So if I actually click apply, it's going to now narrow that report down to the failures that are just on those clusters. We can also then change that back out and put it back to just my production one, because that's the one that's the most important to me. And I can see if I've got failures running there. And in this case, I'm not getting any failed objects, which is good, because this particular cluster is my true production cluster that's managing all of this environment behind the scenes. So here, if we want to actually run schedules, we can do so. What we're getting right now is the last couple of weeks by default. And you'll notice if we actually click schedule, it's going to tell us that we want to change the range to the last 24 hours, 7 days, last month, or current month before scheduling it. So if I change this to the last 24 hours and apply it, it'll give me all of that data, and then I can go ahead and schedule this report, and I can send it every day, every week, every month to at a certain time to a number of different recipients. And we can also select the format. So this can be useful if you're for certain reports, if you're looking at consumption or usage and you want to keep track of it, especially on DataProtect as a service. We can also just direct download the report and actually put it in PDF, Excel, or CSV file for any of these reports that we're running. So there's a lot more capability. It's easier to manage the scheduling and the downloads across the environment. Let me go back to the library and point out a couple of other reports. So there's one that's interesting that will actually, if you have a lot of on-premises systems, we can run reports on how long systems may have been disconnected, what their disconnection percentage is. We can actually look at the month. We can look at the last 24 hours. We can look at the last year. So, here, this is important, right? Because we want to know, are we having any connection issues on our systems as we speak. And in this case, we're seeing a connection issue on one of these in the background in the last 24 hours. But in the last 7 days, it'll change a little bit, and we'll see that, over that span, it's actually been connected. So we had a disconnect for a quick period of time in the last 24 hours. So this is a report you may want to run for your on-premises systems. We don't run this for the DataProtect as a service. This is not an example that's one for on-premises, but not for the as a service model. What we can also do is we can look at storage consumption. So on your physical environments or your virtual editions, this will actually start to tell you across all of your clusters, what is your growth rate starting to look like? And again, this is another report you may want to schedule to get weekly or monthly, so you can keep an idea on how your usage percentages are moving along. And you may want to look at it, periodically over 1 week period, or if you've got a very busy environment, you may want to schedule this every day. So this is a useful report as well. And every single one of these reports, again, I'll go back to the performance part of the change. Every one of these is very easy to run, and they're very fast when we're running them. So if we actually want to look at our protected objects, which is a great report as well, actually, let's go to protected and unprotected. So this report will tell you overall in your entire environment how well you're protected. So in my environment, I'm at about 25%. There's about 700 objects that are total, and I'm only protecting about 187. And that is showing across all of my regions for the as a service product, as well as all of my on-premises ones. And we could narrow this down. There's a reason for that. Some of these are demo machines that we don't need to back up. There's probably one other report I just want to show from the library, which is something that you also may want to have long term, which really is, these protection activities or protection runs, where you can actually see detailed activity of each protection run. So here under protection runs, we can see we've got over a 90% success rate, almost 33,000 runs across our entire environment, almost 30,000 successful, some that have warnings. But again, this is another example of data points that you may want to have when you're trying to actually, know which things are backed up, which things are having issues. Is it a permissions problem? Are you having an issue somewhere in the environment? Lastly, we want to point out that you can actually, on each of these reports, there's different columns that you can change. So, for example, on this one, we can toggle on data read and data read and logical size and turn off our snapshot status, our system, and our policy, and we can compare that data over time. Each report has different columns that you can customize, so that's entirely up to you. As you go through the different reports, you'll see which ones you can do. So for the most part, this is it. We wanted to show a quick update on how this has changed. And again, to review, there's some new reports for DataProtect as a service. There's some reports that have been added for some on-premises items, and just a better, smoother UI, along with much better performance in the report runs themselves. So when you have access to this, I invite everybody to try it out and give us some feedback. Leave a comment down below under the video, and we'll see you here on the Cohesity YouTube channel for the next product demo.